Some men do not start from zero. They start from less than that. They start with debt in one pocket and somebody else's hope in the other. I knew a man like that. Name was Daniel, 42 when I met him. Too young to look that tired. Too old to still be calling his life a rough patch. He used to come into the same coffee shop where I stopped every Thursday morning. Not the pretty kind with soft music and people typing on silver laptops. This place had chipped cups, metal spoons, and one old refrigerator in the corner that hummed like it had a grudge against the world. The owner still kept a little radio near the register. Some mornings it played those old songs from the late 80s. Thin sound, a little static, like the song had traveled a long way just to sit beside your coffee. Daniel always ordered the cheapest thing on the board. Small black coffee, no sugar. He drank it slowly, like a man trying to make 15 minutes feel like an hour. At first glance, you would not notice him. That was part of his problem. Men like Daniel become easy to ignore. His jacket had that tired shine around the elbows. Not because it was expensive, because the fabric had been rubbed smooth by years of use. His shoes were clean, but the soles leaned outward, the way they do when a man walks more than he rests. His hands told the whole story. Dry knuckles, a cut near the thumb, nails clipped short, but stained with engine grease that no soap ever fully wins against. One winter morning, I saw him take half a sandwich from his coat pocket, wrapped in yesterday's receipt. Bread flattened, a slice of fried egg inside, cold. He ate it without embarrassment. That stayed with me, not because it was sad in some dramatic way, because it was ordinary. That is how hard years really look. Not violins, not speeches, just a cold sandwich in a coat pocket at 7:10 in the morning. We started talking the way men our age often do, not by asking each other deep questions, by complaining about our backs. Then the price of school shoes, then blood pressure, then how parents get old so quietly you almost miss it. Until one day, you are holding their prescription bag and reading the label with your own reading glasses. He had 2 kids, a boy in middle school, a girl who still slept with one sock on and one sock off. He was raising them with his wife in a rented room behind an auto parts warehouse. One room, curtain in the middle, parents on one side, children on the other. His mother lived 20 minutes away with his older sister, after a stroke left half her body stubborn and slow. Every month he sent money he did not have. Not because he was noble, because there are some things you do before thinking. That is family. I asked him once what he used to do. He laughed. Not a happy laugh, the kind a man makes when he has already buried the part of himself you are asking about. I used to have plans, he said. Then he stirred a coffee that did not need stirring. Turned out Daniel had grown up poor, in a town that had 1 cinema, 2 churches, and a bus station that smelled like diesel and wet newspaper. His father repaired radios and cassette players in the 90s. You remember those little repair counters, maybe? Glass case in front, tiny screwdrivers lined up, a dusty speaker on the shelf, stacks of tapes with handwritten labels. When Daniel was a boy, he sat beside his father after school and passed him screws no bigger than rice grains. He told me he still remembered the click of a cassette sliding into place. That sound, sharp, certain. Back then, that sound meant something in the house was about to work again. His father used to say, "If it still makes noise, it still wants to live." Funny what stays with a person. Daniel was good with his hands, better than school, better than words, better than polished people. He got older, started fixing motorcycles, then cars, then delivery vans. By his early 30s, he had saved enough to open a small garage with a friend. 2 lifts, 1 tin roof, a fan that pushed hot air from one corner to another, a calendar with a woman holding motor oil, a plastic stool by the toolbox. Not a big dream, just the kind a man builds inch by inch. Then life did what it does. His friend borrowed money from the business, did not say anything. A customer sued after a brake failure on an old truck Daniel had warned them not to drive. His son got pneumonia that same month. His landlord raised the rent. His father died before dawn on a Tuesday. By the time Daniel understood how much water was coming in, he was already underwater. The garage closed. The equipment was sold. He spent 3 years chasing day labor, construction, night unloading, warehouse shifts, parking lot security, whatever came. One job paid him in cash folded inside a cigarette pack. Another paid him 2 weeks late. Another never paid him at all. He said the worst part was not hunger. It was going home with children old enough to read your face. He told me one night he sat in a parked car outside his room for almost an hour because he had only bought 3 bread rolls and a pack of instant noodles. He was trying to decide whether to smile before walking in or to walk in honest. There it was again, the kind of detail that hurts because it is small. Not a grand tragedy, just a grown man with cheap bread on the passenger seat, practicing his face in the windshield reflection. After that, things got narrower. He sold his watch, then his tools. That part nearly broke him. A mechanic without tools is like a singer with no voice. He kept one wrench, 17 millimeter, old, heavy, handle worn smooth. His father had used it before him. Daniel carried it in a cloth bag for months, even when he had no reason to. Said it made him feel like his hands still belonged to somebody. One summer, he started waking at 4:30 to stand outside a wholesale market and help vendors unload produce. Crates of oranges, sacks of onions, wet cardboard, rotten leaves stuck to the pavement. The work lasted until sunrise. Then he changed shirts in a public restroom and took a bus across town to wash cars. At night, he repaired broken fans and rice cookers for neighbors. I asked him when he slept. He said, "On buses mostly," then smiled. Again, not proudly, just like a man noting the weather. Still, something in him refused to lie down. Not loudly, not heroically. It was quieter than that, more stubborn. He began saving $5 at a time in an old biscuit tin, the kind grandmothers used to keep thread and buttons in. He hid it behind cleaning supplies so the children would not see, not because they would steal, because he could not bear to let them watch hope grow that slowly. $5, 10, 23, 38. He took side jobs from one washing customer who owned a plumbing company. Daniel offered to clean the vans cheaper if they let him ride along on weekends. Not for money at first, to learn. Imagine that. A man over 40, knees already talking back, shoulders tight from lifting, still standing in somebody else's shadow, trying to pick up a trade like an apprentice. He watched, carried pipes, held flashlights, crawled under sinks in houses much nicer than any place he had ever lived. He told me the hardest houses were not the mansions. It was the normal homes. Family photos on the fridge, shoes by the door, school artwork taped to the wall, a cracked cereal bowl in the sink. That kind of ordinary life can hit a tired man harder than luxury ever could, because it looks close enough to touch. About a year later, the plumbing owner fired a younger guy for not showing up sober. Daniel got 2 days a week, then 4, then full-time. The pay was not glorious. The van had no air conditioning. The uniform smelled faintly of bleach. Half the calls were emergency clogs and leaking water heaters. But it was steady. Steady can feel like wealth when you have lived too long with maybe. He kept going. His wife started selling packed lunches to workers near the bus depot. Rice, egg, pickled vegetables, sometimes a piece of chicken if margins were kind. His son stacked boxes after school. His daughter reused school notebooks, writing between old lines in the empty spaces. Nobody in that family had the luxury of pride. That is another thing people do not say enough. Pride is expensive. Some people cannot afford it. 3 years passed. Daniel paid off one old debt, then another, moved the family into a small apartment with 2 actual rooms. The first thing he bought was not a television, not a sofa, not even a bed frame. He bought his daughter a desk, a plain wooden one, second-hand, one leg slightly shorter than the others. He folded cardboard under the weak side to keep it steady. Said he was tired of seeing her do homework on the floor. When he told me that, he looked away and scratched his chin, as if he had revealed too much. I remember visiting that apartment once. The window unit rattled like an old bus. The kitchen smelled faintly of garlic and detergent. There was a school timetable taped crooked on the wall, a rice cooker with a cracked lid, and on top of the refrigerator, that old biscuit tin still there. Empty now, he said, but he kept it, for luck, for memory, for proof. Years later, Daniel did something that would sound unimpressive to people who have never lost everything. He opened a workshop again. Not a garage this time, a repair place. Small appliances, fans, microwaves, rice cookers, kettles, blenders. Things regular people bring in when replacing them would hurt too much. Above the counter, he hung an old sign with faded blue paint. Under it, on a shelf by itself, sat his father's 17mm wrench. Did not belong there, really. Wrong trade, wrong tool. But some objects are not for use anymore. They are for keeping a piece of your own history from being erased. The last time I sat with him at that coffee shop, he was 50. Still tired, just differently tired. The kind that comes from staying upright too long. He stirred sugar into his coffee now, said he had earned the sweetness. We both laughed at that. The radio was playing one of those old songs again. The kind that makes you remember plastic tablecloths, standing fans, and the smell of tiger balm in your parents' room. He looked out the window and said, "You know what scared me most?" I thought he would say debt, or failure, or hunger. He shook his head. It was becoming the kind of man my children would speak about softly. That line stayed with me, because by our age, that is the real fear, isn't it? Not just that life will beat you. Life beats everybody. It is whether the beating turns you into someone smaller, or whether, somehow, in a room with bad light and overdue bills and old bread and wet shoes, you still remain recognizable to the people who need you. Daniel never became rich. Let me say that plainly. No miracle came flying through the window. No stranger handed him a check. His hands still ache in cold weather. His mother still needs medicine. His son still worries about tuition. His daughter still studies at that little desk, though now it has been sanded and painted twice. He just kept moving. Slowly. Ugly at times. Ashamed at times. Angry at times. But moving. And maybe that is all a lot of lives really are. Not triumph, not failure. Just a long argument with exhaustion. Sometimes I think about that first sandwich I saw him eat. Cold egg, flattened bread, wrapped in a receipt. And I think about how close a human life can come to folding in on itself, without fully breaking. There is no neat sentence to tie around a man like Daniel. Only this picture. A worn-out father. Grease under his nails. Coffee gone lukewarm. An old song on the radio. One hand around a chipped cup. The other still ready for work.